You're listening to Salad Tales, and today's story is The Prince and the Peastalk. 'Twas the most bestest of times, and also the most worstest of times.
There once was a young prince who lived with his evil witch stepmom in a faraway land, on a farm, and in exile from the rest of the people who inhabited the magical kingdom in which they lived.
His witch stepmom brought him to a secluded farm because his existence was a secret. He was the bastard son of her murdered ex-husband, the Wizard King, and she knew that he possessed a great unknown power, a power she was going to use to change her future and the kingdom forever.
And her plan was pretty simple. Murder her ex-husband and flee the kingdom, raise her stepson secluded, marry him off to a random-ass princess, they become king and queen, bunch of shit goes down, they overthrow the current rulers at the time, bada bing, bada boom, the magical kingdom is ruled by evil and she will have her own little evil army of grandbabies.
The witch had two problems, though. One, the prince wasn't evil. He wasn't even really related to her. And B, he was a complete idiot. But she figured she'd solve these two issues as time went on.
So it came to be the prince's 18th birthday. It felt like a typical day, and to him, it really was. He ate his breakfast and then was sent out to do his daily chores on the farm. But while he tugged on the titty of their old milking cow Bessie, his evil witch stepmom plotted phase 3 of her evil plan.
She needed to find some random-ass princess to marry him off to. Any old princess would do. The evil stepmom wasn't really picky. But she needed her to be royalty.
So just as the prince was finishing up milking Bessie, all of a sudden, a strange man with a magnificent beard and wearing a potato sack as pants stumbled out of the forest and onto the farm.
Now, any old person would have recognized that this man was a total fucking weirdo, but not the prince. The only other person he's ever seen in his entire life was his evil witch stepmom, and she honestly didn't really look too much different than this bum.
Excited to meet a new person, the prince ran over and greeted the stranger.
Almost instantly, the weirdo offered the prince a trade. 3 magic peas that he pulled from his weird potato sack for Bessie, the old milking cow.
Now, at the risk of losing his new weirdo friend, the prince accepted his offer. Without even missing a beat, the weirdo tossed the prince's peas, hopped on Bessie, and slapped her on the butt, galloping back off into the forest.
The prince was left in total shock. Not only did his new best friend, which he trusted so much, totally abandon him, but he lost Bessie. And all he got out of it were these 3 little dried up peas.
Out of sheer frustration, he threw the peas on the ground and then began to cry. He cried and cried and cried. He began to cry so loud that the evil witch stepmom heard the commotion and stormed outside to see what he had done.
The prince told her the whole story and she was pissed. But just then something amazing happened. The peas began to sprout. His tears rehydrated them, and they sprouted an enormous stalk that reached all the way up through the clouds.
To escape the angry wrath of his evil witch stepmom, the prince began to climb the Peastalk. He climbed high, all the way into the sky, where he eventually reached a big, pillowy world of clouds.
He tried hopping from one cloud to another and discovered he was completely weightless. Soon, he was having so much fun bouncing on his sweet cheeks from cloud to cloud that he forgot all about his evil witch stepmom chasing him.
All of his laughter and joy awoke a giant cyclops that was sleeping on a nearby passing cloud. It sat up and looked at the prince, and he looked back at the cyclops. And it was like magic. The two instantly fell in love.
Oh man, how romantic.
A story of love at first sight. Who would have thought?
But his evil witch stepmom had caught up to him at this point, and she was watching the love fest from afar. She had to put a stop to it. Cyclopses are not royalty, and this would throw a massive wrench in her plan.
Then, just as the prince and his new lover began fee-fi-fo fucking, his evil witch stepmom hopped out and tried to attack them. But she startled the Cyclops, who instinctually roundhoused the witch, sending her flying off into another dimension.
Just goes to show you should never startle a Cyclops. They will always roundhouse your ass into another dimension. I say that all the time.
They do have terrible depth perception. Anyway, the prince and the Cyclops lived happily ever after.
The end.